Living Indubiously.
It is your call. It is your game. It is your creation.
Oh my god, they're so indubious!
You have to have an optimal theory for playing the game.
Whatever you focus upon becomes your truth.
Welcome, everyone, to the Living Indubiously podcast. It's great to have you all here today, and I want to remind you that this podcast is a place where we open our hearts, we display true aspects of ourselves and our human experience without judgment, so others may benefit from them and connect to the energy that we aim to create more of in the world. Through this energy, may we lay down the burden of fear and doubt. This is the Living Indubiously podcast. And as promised, we have as a guest today, Stephen Favasuli, the founder and creator of Dream Herbally, our sponsor. How you doing, Stephen?
Doing well. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. I've been really excited about this podcast. I've been kind of like saving it. You know, we initially talked about doing it, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna kind of save that few podcasts in because, I feel like we're very much energetically aligned, and that came through in your initial email to us. When you're like, hey, like I have this product and like I'm super into what you guys are doing and this whole energetic vibrational level, and I'd like to be a sponsor. And I was like, oh yes, that was a yes, because I'm a snap judgments kind of a guy. I like just ride on my intuition. But I said, well, let me try the product, because the last thing I want to do is get people to buy a product that doesn't work or isn't that great. And I was blown away by the product. So thank you for reaching out.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. And, I have felt, I would say, an energetic alignment with your music over time. And, in this kind of vibrational way where I've just felt drawn to it and aligned with it. And, it's been such a blessing to me that I've kind of felt, like, I don't know, there's something there. And when I started listening to your podcast, I just continued to feel very aligned with your content. And, I wanted to just felt a draw to kind of partner with you guys in some way.
Yeah.
So this is a good forum for it. And we definitely wanted to, ensure that you experience the product the way we kind of hoped and expected that you would. Results are always going to vary a little bit by individual on something like this.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of variables involved, but, we've had enough feedback at this point that, we were optimistic you'd have an experience with it that was positive. So
yeah, I mean, whatever that indicator is a biological factor that some people respond really well to it. I definitely have that, because my response to it was instant, man. And my wife's been drinking it too, and she has some interesting stories.
Oh yeah,
some interesting stories unfolding. Well, first, I told you, but I want to tell the listeners and everyone that I had my second lucid dream a few nights ago, and it was very interesting. So I have these recurring dreams of my dad. My dad passed away 4 years ago, and I have these recurring dreams that are always morbid. And it's like my dad is like dying. He's like on life support, or he has his leg amputated, or something weird and dark. And that's a reoccurring dream that I have. And so I was having that dream again. Like I went to go toss a stapler to my dad for him to grab it, and it like hit his arm and like cut him, and he was like bleeding and shit, and it was terrible. And so in my dream, I was looking at my dad and I was going, oh, I'm dreaming. This is the reoccurring dream that I have. And it was like, boom, warm, that feeling when you become aware in your dream. It's like pure magic. And then I became aware. I was like, hey, Pop, I don't really want to have this dream anymore, dude. Like, it's no offense, but I don't want to have the dream where you're sick and dying. It sucks, and I'm done. Can we like not do this anymore? He's like, yeah, totally. you know? And I said, it's okay if like you want to come in my dream to hang out and like be healthy and, you know, the healthy young version, like that feels pleasing to me. He's like, totally. He's like, all right, well, and so as I'm talking to him, he's like getting younger and he's becoming his young, healthy, vibrant self. And he says, all right, well, you want me to give you a haircut? I said, sure. And so in my dream, my dad gave me a haircut and that was my dream. And I used to cut my dad's hair a lot. So I think that's where that come from.
Yeah. I mean, lucid dreaming, it's a fascinating phenomenon. And I feel like there's such a continuum of, you know, ability to control the dream that people experience. You know, some people may become lucid in the sense that they're just aware that they're dreaming and then struggle to kind of dictate outcomes within the dream or take control of it. And, you know, I think where it becomes increasingly powerful is when you can start to make decisions and have that level of cognition in that state.
Yeah.
You know, and I wonder, you know, going forward, if this will change the trajectory of your dreams with your dad.
Me too.
You know, like, right, that's where it becomes, I think, an added layer of interesting.
Whether or not we're actually changing the outcome of our future experiences through our dream space.
Yeah, and it's definitely like when I get into realms like that, I try to take an approach that's not very dogmatic about, you know, kind of how it works and all that, and prefer to just observe experiences. You know, I think people have all sorts of views on like what is possible and what is not in that sense. You know, personally, I have controlled outcomes in many ways, you know, within the lucid dream state, but not necessarily in a way that is impacting a series of dreams. You know, so that's not an area I've really experienced or could speak to as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be very interesting to hear if future dreams with him, you know, have kind of like a different direction.
Totally. I can definitely attest to the fact that I have had lucid dreams in my life before, but every time I become aware in my dream, I get too excited and then I wake up. Every time that's my blanket experience. It's like, oh my gosh, I can control my reality, and then wake up. And since I started drinking the tea, I don't have that anymore. I stay in the dream space, which I don't know why that is, but I think it would be definitely interesting for me and the listeners. I'd like to hear the story. You kind of gave me the brief cliff notes, but the story of how you know, came up with the blend and how it kind of changed your experience with dreaming. With you and your wife, correct? You're the owners of the company?
Yeah, my wife and I kind of did this together. You know, I would say we're both just, you know, kind of very curious people when it comes to different states of consciousness and the ability that we may have to kind of tune into different states of consciousness, you know, in different ways. And, you know, so we are both regular cannabis users and, you know, kind of, I would say use that to sort of achieve different frequencies or kind of higher perspectives on things, you know, as well as simply enjoying it. And, you know, we've had experiences with psychedelics and things like that have really, you know, taken us to fascinating states of consciousness. And dreaming, it's, you know, I've had the awareness that dreaming is just kind of an altered state of consciousness that anyone can really tune into without any substances necessarily at all. It's you know, a natural state that we experience. You know, even though the awareness of our dreams varies from one person to another, everybody is dreaming on some level. You know, and cannabis has this effect, as you know, many who use it have experienced, that it tends to dampen dream awareness. You know, there are people that are exceptions to that you know, even might say it increases their dream awareness. I've heard that. But I would say for most people, cannabis is more likely to reduce dream awareness. And for us, that was definitely the effect, you know. So there's kind of this awareness that there's this potentially very interesting altered state of consciousness that we could be experiencing that we're being blocked from. And given, you know, cannabis being I would say, positive force for us in our lives. We didn't necessarily want to give that up in order to experience the dream state,
Right.
vividly and fully. So I started looking into kind of, what are the reasons that, this effect happens? Are there any ways potentially to offset that? And I got into looking at dream herbs and doing a lot of research kind of on the different plants that have been used traditionally to enhance dream awareness, and got into some experimentation. Once I read enough about different plants and felt confident that I was not going to have any toxicity issues or things like that, started working with individual plants one at a time, over a series of nights, and observing the experiences. And, that was kind of the first stage to see what happened individually. And I definitely, got some effects from different ones to differing degrees. I would say that one interesting thing about these herbs is they don't all just enhance dream awareness in the same exact way. Some are maybe more likely to increase like vividness and color and things like that. Others might be more likely to expand the number of senses that are engaged during a dream, that kind of thing.
Huh.
And while others might be more likely to impact or improve recall of a dream. So, I kind of observed these effects in somewhat different ways from one to the next, and eventually combined the ones that were most effective for me in different ways in a manner that I thought would be most synergistic, like each herb kind of bringing something different to the table. So then I had a more potent blend. And then we kind of went through this whole process of refining the flavor and the aroma and those kinds of things. Like we definitely wanted it to be like a full sensory experience that could potentially feel kind of like a whole ritualistic thing.
Yeah.
Like really be mindful and intentional about it, and kind of go through this sensory process, of experiencing it.
Yeah, I actually, in the entire time that I've been drinking the tea, I haven't had any smell or taste. So I cannot really attest to the tastiness of it, but my wife thinks it's great.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
And I went through that phase as well of losing my sense of smell, and my sense of taste was distorted.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
Different. Yeah, and it totally, essentially eliminated that whole aspect of the tea.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre. I was weirded out by it, I would say. But anyway, we just kind of, got it to a place where, we felt it was perfected, or as good as it was going to get, and started using the full blend. And I would say, after a week or so of the full blend, I got to a point where I started having very vivid dreams, even on nights off from it.
I can agree with that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice. It's a cumulative effect. It's like, now that I've been using it for a couple of years, like I don't need to drink it every night to have, the same impact on my dreams.
Yeah.
Over time I can reduce how often I drink it, and, still have these types of dreams. And I had never had a lucid dream before, any of this.
Interesting.
And yeah, I didn't know it was just a very abstract phenomenon. I'd read about it, heard about it, but never experienced it. So I really didn't know what that was like. And I would say it was about 3 months or so for me, when my dream awareness had been increasing over time, and, eventually I became just so aware in a dream that I recognized an anomaly within the dream, and was like, wait a minute, this wouldn't be like this.
Yeah.
My wife in the dream was walking upstairs to the basement, and it was just simply a matter of, the basement's downstairs. This doesn't make sense.
There's something not right about this. Oh, I'm dreaming.
Yeah. Then there was that whole moment of, like you may remember from the first time you had a lucid dream of, of like, wow, I just feel entirely different suddenly, and feel it throughout my body, feel just like a completely transformed state. And I feel like it's something I'll never forget, because it was such a fascinating thing to experience.
Yeah.
And that started happening, I would say maybe 2-3 times a month or something on average. Like, I intentionally didn't want to get into techniques to induce lucid dreaming, because I wanted to continue to be able to experiment with different dream herbs and not have that sort of confounding variable.
You wanted to specifically gauge the efficacy of the product as opposed to any sort of other tool.
Exactly. Yeah. In an unbiased way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, are you still have lucid dreams regularly, or?
Yeah, I still do have lucid dreams pretty regularly. I would say that the frequency has increased a little. I probably have, it can be a little streaky sometimes, but, probably have maybe 4, 5, 6 lucid dreams a month. Sometimes it's a little less than that. But it's kind of, I would say, plateaued. I think to get beyond the level I'm at now, I would either have to go back to using the tea, many times a week rather than just a couple, and potentially introduce some techniques and things like that.
Huh.
But yeah, it's gotten me basically to a level where I have good dream awareness most nights, even when using cannabis at night.
Yeah.
And a handful of lucid dreams a month.
So what do you feel like the benefits are of lucid dreaming? Like, what sort of experiences have you had? Have you had experiences that have impacted your life in a beneficial way through your lucid dreaming experiences?
Yeah. Good question. I would say I have. I think at a more generalized level, lucid dreaming could be a lot of different things to different people, depending on kind of where they are and what they want to get out of it.
Uh-huh.
Like, I think at a base level, it's adventurous. It's an interesting
Totally.
expansion of the mind. To be able to kind of tune into a different frequency and experience things in a different way. And it's simply for a curious person about consciousness, it's an interesting state to experience and kind of come back and reflect on. I think when you get into the realm of sort of manifestation and things like that lucid dreaming can sort of train you to overcome limiting beliefs. If for example, the first time I tried to fly, I think I was too bound by my expectations of the laws of physics, and I just kind of like jumped and it didn't really work and things like that. And to sort of recognize that, that is something that I have imposed on myself based on the paradigms or schemas or whatever I've formed up to this point in my life, and work on kind of, manifesting outcomes without being held back by essentially those pre-existing paradigms. I think there's work that can be done in that kind of way. I think being able to sort of turn negative situation, and I guess your dream is sort of like this too, being able to turn a negative situation into a positive situation and get the feeling of kind of having more control over things is something that can translate to waking life.
Yeah.
The lucid dream state can kind of be practice for a lot of these things, and sort of rewiring the neurons a little bit to think of things and approach things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess the last thing I was going to say kind of applies to dreaming in general, not just lucid dreaming, but I think, and people have a lot of different perspectives on this, but personally, my experience has shown me that, there can be a lot of guidance that can come from the dream state. That to me it's not all within my mind. It's, you're connecting to, I think of it as you're tuning in to different frequencies, and I think a lot of that is exogenous to the mind, and so I think the guidance that can come from the dream state could come in many forms. In lucid dreaming in particularly, one thing I have liked to do is talk to my higher self.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, like you said, sometimes you can get so excited that you're lucid that you might wake up. Or for me, it's like I might forget what I want to do with my lucidity.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like in those cases, it's like I know I'm going to wake up if I don't engage something. So I'll just kind of interact with my immediate environment in the dream state and not get as much out of it. But if I'm, entering that state and remembering that, like, okay, I want to get something more out of this, I think talking to my higher self is one of my favorite things to do. And I've gotten some interesting guidance about kind of dilemmas in my day-to-day life and
so
whatnot.
You just kind of ask for it in the dream state. You just set the intention, and then it shows up.
Yeah. So I have not gotten it in the form of a voice back to me or anything like that. But yeah, I've asked for a sign for something or something like that. One way that I've liked to do it is kind of, ask for an outcome to go a certain way if I should be pursuing something or, something like that, like ask for signs in that form. Like I'm going down this street in this car and, show me if this thing that I have in mind is a dead end, and if I hit a dead end, I feel like,
wow,
the
that's
dream
very
kind of
advanced I'm in the very early stages of lucid dreaming, but to have that kind of that level of lucidity in the dream state for me seems daunting.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the kind of thing where I have, and this is just such a broader topic for me, like, differentiating between intuition and analysis and kind of the heart and the mind and all that. Yeah. And, so I definitely have gone back after some of those occasions and been like, could I have manifested that myself based on what I wanted to happen and do all that kind of questioning. So I don't mean to give the impression that it's always immediately clear, but I think that sometimes it is. And I think those are the times when I almost feel like I know when it is intuitive, like there isn't the same degree of questioning or something like that.
Right.
Like there, one of the, someone who studied dreaming and wrote about it and everything, Jeremy Taylor, has kind of framed, framed the whole phenomenon I'm kind of talking about as like an aha moment that is essentially a memory, of the intuition. So it's like in the dream state, you knew this if it was intuitive, and you have kind of a memory of I'm struggling to, I guess, articulate this. But you have an aha moment where you just kind of know that this is what this dream means. This is after the fact. You just kind of remember the intuition on like an intuitive level. And I think, sometimes it's clearer than others is essentially the point I'm getting to. Mm-hmm. Where other times it can be a little more muddy. It can be unclear whether, did I make this happen, or did I just kind of create this outcome, or was it really externally driven?
Well, it's something, that general idea is something that I experience in many different aspects. For example, like I use tarot cards a lot. And so I'll have a question in mind, and I'll pull the tarot cards and it'll show me the answer. And like what I've noticed, I can go back later, and if I'm in a different mood, let's say I'm in a really good mood and I'm like everything's like I'm in the vortex, I'm flying high. Almost all the card outcomes look good. Because I'm approaching it from that version of my alignment. So it's like, is it really giving me the actual outcome, or is it just giving me the outcome based on my current vibration? And therefore I could just change my vibration to create the outcome that I want. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, that does feel like one of those sort of chicken and the egg type of questions to me sometimes. If we're aligning with a vibratory level and we are going to receive back whatever is at that frequency that we're aligned with.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what manifestation is maybe all about. I don't mean to say that too authoritatively, but that's like my sense of kind of how it works. It's like, well,
100%, bro.
We're aligning with this level. Did we dictate what we're getting back? And would that be the case? Yeah, in your tarot situation or in dreaming or whatever. I do agree. I think that's how it works. I think that we align and we change the outcome. But then, what's the point of the cards? Right? Yeah, right. I know, and it feels like, I feel like, and it almost seems paradoxical according to what we just said, but I feel like there is, guidance that we can get externally, right? It's not, it doesn't seem like it's just what we're putting out there, because, we can have these aha moments, beyond the dream state, just in different circumstances that, they just feel directly internal, external. I can remember one experience when I was on a mushroom trip and I had a lot of seemingly disastrous circumstances happening around me and was feeling very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I basically was like surrendering to being so overwhelmed and just kind of called out to my higher self, or I think at the time my concept of it was the universal consciousness. And I just sort of asked, what is the answer here? Like what to do? And immediately got a download. Acceptance is the answer. And I accepted that circumstance, and everything changed vibrationally. I just felt fully at peace. And it was like, it was a type of thing that was so transformative to me that like words can't, reflect the level at which that was transformative to me, but it also felt distinctly external that I was getting that advice. Like, I wonder if that's even the best word. It's like, what I mean is I didn't necessarily generate that intentionally. I asked for it and it came to me. So I don't know. It takes me back to, the dream situation and the card situation, thinking that, we can get guidance through these situations, and maybe our establishing our level of vibration or our frequency or whatever is simply opening us up to what guidance is out there, that
I
is
think
an
it
overlap
100%
with that
is.
frequency.
I think that's truth. And did you listen to the podcast I did with Javen Michael on lucid dreaming?
Yes, I enjoyed that.
He talks about exactly that when you, his example was when you become lucid, that if you can get yourself high enough to where you can get to the astral plane, that then deities will come and take you on an adventure and show you specific things about dealing with that. This is his experience. I've not experienced it yet. So it's, I take things really just for face value. I don't take it for gospel, but, his whole belief is that that's, in raising our vibration, not even speaking about dreams, in raising our vibration, we're essentially coming closer into contact, closer onto the vibratory field where beings higher than ourselves exist that are more than willing and happy to help carry us to where we want to go, if that is our intention.
Yeah. I mean, he seemed to have such a framework for it that, is
very specific
beyond like, what I feel I know, but that general idea did resonate with me, and I would say from limited experience, like I haven't really gotten to a place like in the dream state or even with psychedelics where I would say I've interacted with deities or anything like that. But as far as tuning into different levels of downloads and my higher self and things like that feel like they're sort of at a certain frequency that maybe like before I was at that frequency myself, I was closed off to or something like that. That definitely feels representative of my experience.
Yeah. One thing that I've definitely felt about dreams in general, like I have a recurring dream that I have is flying, right? And like sometimes it's real easy to fly, and you just kind of like intend yourself to go where, and sometimes it's hard. And I feel like it's a kind of a metaphor for life in the sense that in the dream, when you start efforting in the dream, it kind of messes up the flying ability. So it's kind of like this gentle grace and knowing that takes you where you want to go. And it's very specific. And I think that life is like that too, that there is this gentle knowing and grace that takes us where we want to go. And then when we try too hard, we kind of mess it up, because in the feeling of trying too hard is this kind of grasping and fear that it's not going to work out the way that we want it to. And that kind of grasping and fear and resistance is what stops the reality from just falling into place vibrationally by itself.
Yeah, definitely the resistance, I think, is a huge part of that. Yeah, I lost track of what I was going to say from the first part of what you said.
I don't even remember what I said, man.
Yeah, if there was something there, maybe it'll come to me at some point.
Do you write your dreams down?
I have. I've gone through phases of that. Again, that was one of the things that I didn't want to do at first when I was really experimenting with different herbs, because that can impact recall and things like that.
Yeah.
But I got so interested in dreaming that I went back to school for a little bit to study it. And, part of that program, did involve journaling to work with dreams using different techniques and things like that.
Uh-huh.
So I did go through a phase for several months, where I was regularly journaling.
Yeah.
I would say it greatly improved my recall, and not only my recall, but the ability to work with nuances of the dream that come out. I was, I kind of went into this program to study it, to just sort of learn more about how I could work with other people around, helping them navigate their own dream insights.
Yeah.
And what I didn't anticipate was how much I was going to get, myself for my own dreams. Like, I thought I was kind of like doing all right with getting insights from my dreams, but there were so many more layers that actually implementing techniques around this, which journaling was a foundation of, was able to bring out. And I came away from all this just feeling like dreaming is like a much more powerful and potentially insightful state than I had ever thought it even was before.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to journal my dreams. And I used to write them all down. And then I had a baby, and you kind of don't get that time in the morning. You wake up, like your baby wakes you up, and then you're just going. So it kind of takes away that little space. She's now 3.5 years old, so it's getting better and better. I'm sure I'll get back into it soon. But it's so weird going back and reading your old dreams.
Oh yeah,
because you wake up, you remember it, you write it down, you remember it maybe for a few days, and you kind of just forget about it, And then when you go back and read them, it's like, whoa, dude, I do not remember this at all. That's incredible.
Yeah, I would basically take the approach of, when I first, because, obviously the closer it is to the time you had the dream, the more you're going to remember from it. So I'd kind of take rough notes when I first wake up. And then later on, when I would have the chance to more, to dedicate a little more time to journaling, I would try to make that a whole, almost like ritualistic type of experience. Like I got kind of like a fancy, like gold, designed journal. And I would, put on some music, smoke a joint, like, write in cursive in a sort of like archaic type of, creative way.
Wow.
And really like, make a process out of writing out the dream.
Make it a sacred thing.
Yeah, and it just felt like it was able to, kind of get me back into remembering more of it and just getting more from it. Just a process that worked for me.
In terms of like your spiritual growth as a person and the things that you like and kind of do for that, would you say dreaming's at the top of the list, or is it a series of many things that you do? Are you a very intentional person in general with your spiritual practice? Seems like it.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Is it at the top of the list or not? Because I almost feel like the answer that comes to mind is there's like a synergy among different practices. I would say I try to be an intentional person with spiritual practices, but honestly, that greatly varies from, say, one week to the next based on just how kind of like bogged down by things I have to do or whatever I am.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give the impression that I'm always regularly very intentional, but when I am able to be, when I'm kind of, in a good place when it comes to that, I think that different practices kind of work together. And this is one thing that I will say, like when I went and studied dreaming, like one component of that was like a practicum where, we had to start, not just work with students anymore, but work with other people. And I specifically chose like a subset of people that had recent psychedelic experiences, because I wanted to see, to back up for a second, I would say in my own life, my experiences with mushrooms and then my experiences with dreaming really struck me that they were that they were working on the same issues. And it was like, I'd have a mushroom experience that would show me something. And then my dreams after that seems to be showing me how to navigate implementing or integrating, what I had gotten from the psychedelic trip. And this was, the type of thing that was fascinating for me. And I was wondering, how universal is this? Is this kind of how it always goes or what? And, so I just had a small handful of people for this practicum experience. And I went through different dream work techniques with each of these people after hearing and documenting, what they got from their psychedelic experiences. And I tried really hard not to lead it in this direction and just kind of see what would come up organically. And, without fail, each person that I worked with ended up coming around to this perspective that, yeah, these are working on the same issues. And it seems to be the common denominator felt like, it's our energetic flow that is essentially at the root of this. And it's like, a psychedelic experience might be showing me something that is blocking me energetically, that is, just getting in the way of being more in a flow state throughout life. And the dreams could be showing me how to release that more, that kind of thing. That was sort of how it was going. And it just felt like, the energetic flow was the common denominator that came out. But the dream state and the psychedelic state were working on the same issues. And that's kind of why I say, back to your original question, that it feels like a synergistic thing to me. Like I wouldn't necessarily like, I feel I've gotten, maybe just more like out there kind of deeper, insights or whatever from the psychedelic states. But then the dream state seems to be about the practical implementation of that. For me, at least that's how I've experienced it. So they really work together.
Do you find the dreams to be literal in that sense, or are they symbolic and then you're deciphering it in the way that you're saying? Because to me, my dreams are weird. It's like, I'm rolling donuts and with a snake wearing a vest or something,
Yeah, no, I would definitely say symbolic, not literal.
And so how do you interpret it? Because I can never really interpret my dreams. I'm not good at it.
Yeah, so I mean, there are a lot of techniques for. I guess I call it more dream analysis than dream interpretation because, I don't know. I'm most hesitant to be too conclusive about. It's more. I guess that's more of a thing when working with others. Like I feel like only the dreamer can really confirm,
based
what
on
the
their
meaning
intuition
of
and their
dream is.
feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to give the impression that I'm like interpreting other people's dreams when I work with them or anything like that. I'm helping use techniques to help them arrive themselves at an idea of what the meaning.
Well, I think to be fair, the term interpretation gives that like, feeling is that it's open to interpretation. I mean, it's just your interpretation. It's dream interpretation. It's not like me telling you exactly what your dreams mean.
Yeah, sure. I think I'm probably reacting to maybe some baggage attached to the idea of dream interpretation, where you just got someone telling you that, this is what your dream means. Now go and do this. But I hear you. That's not how you were even using it. And so, there are a lot of different techniques that you can sort of like go into a dream, say, and use what you journaled, for example, and write down everything that you associate with each, key object or person that came up in that dream. And you could take that a couple levels of that and rewrite your dream now using the words, say, that you put down as your associations. And that could give you right there, an example of how this dream could be a metaphor for your life. I typically wouldn't use just one technique and draw too many conclusions from it. But if you have those aha intuitive moments, that can come up. I would say, like, you can use the method of treating all the, key people and symbols and everything in your dreams as parts of yourself, and rewrite it as if like this is an interaction or conversation between parts of yourself, and what parts of yourself are kind of, warring with what other parts of yourself, and that kind of thing. Yeah. And, go through these kinds of processes and see, what the symbols or whatnot are bringing out metaphorically. The one thing I would say where things, I don't know if literal is the right word, but I do think there are also kind of collective archetypes that can manifest in dreams where, different symbols may kind of represent something that has been sort of established by the collective unconscious a little bit more. A little bit of like a Jungian type of
like water for emotion or whatever.
Sure, yeah, and it's like that to me is like one layer of it, and I think everything is kind of colored by the individual and our experience and our energetic state and all that too. Yeah.
So, what do you think that my dreams about my dad mean, and from your interpretation?
Well, the truthful answer is probably I would feel like I needed to go through a few techniques to really break down some of your associations with the different, symbols and whatnot that showed up in there, to really be able to feel like I could suggest something.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, things that feel gruesome and negative and sort of like death related or pointing in that direction have to do with our own sort of shedding of things that are not serving us anymore. Like moving on from different things, from, if you had some sort of, I don't know, say, like way that you view your dad or his death or anything around there in a way that could be holding you back or something, you might feel the need to kind of release that, whatever that might be, and sort of move on from it. And it could be that the lucidity you experienced there is kind of catalyzing an opportunity to, go and actually release whatever blockages.
Yeah, I felt like it definitely was, in a way, like tapping on my subconscious in a way that I haven't been able to before. I do, the feeling that I get from the dreams, it's like I'm just reliving this feeling of the kind of morbidity of my dad dying. Like, because when my dad died, it sucked. He literally had his foot amputated, and he was on dialysis for 8 years, and it was kind of this like really fast progression of him losing his vitality. And it wasn't like he's like, oh, I'm going to die, guys. He was grasping at straws, trying to convince himself that he was going to be okay. Hard to watch.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not a negative guy, and, I'm also like a vulnerable, open person. I talk about my feelings and experiences, but for some reason it just sticks in there, man. And the dreams like coming back and haunting me. And it's like, I'm so over. I've been talking about it for years now.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like maybe there, is a certain view like that you have of him and of that process that is kind of like, established over time of him deteriorating, and maybe the dream could be just a suggestion. All this is like the dream could be, trying to get you to sort of release that view of him and to see him, as more than that. That picture of deterioration and all that.
Yeah.
Again, very, very hard to arrive at meaning, without going through deeper processes. But I do think there are common threads that people experience around release when it comes to that type of symbology.
So what's the benefit in your mind of writing all your dreams down? Like, because I started doing it because it seemed like an interesting thing to do, and I can go back and read through my dream journals, and they're cool and fun and interesting. But other than being a tool of kind of helping me remember my dreams, I don't know what really else they're used for.
Yeah, sure. And beyond the obvious, recall aspect, I think it really, the point where it becomes beneficial beyond that, from my perspective, would be if you intend to actually do deeper work with that content. If you either work with someone or, learn techniques yourself for kind of breaking down that content and looking for the more latent layers of meaning or insight that can come from that.
Yeah.
By going through processes around it and really taking it a level deeper. That's sort of where it would have added value from my perspective. I think if you're just simply journaling and having had the experience of journaling and being able to go back and read it, it's a matter of recall, and you could have some aha moments here and there that just come from that. So it's not without value there, but I really think beyond that, it's kind of to what extent are you going to go deeper in actually working with it and going through those processes.
Yeah, I'm excited to get back into it at some point. Having a baby, having a daughter, man, it's insane the amount of time that it takes, dude. It's like a full-time job. So, if you're used to having your full-time job and then you add an extra full-time job, I mean, all of your extracurricular things kind of go out the window. It's interesting. It's a huge sacrifice. But I will say that it's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, man.
Yeah.
So fun.
Sure. What was that?
So fun. I said so fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are always going to be, trade-offs with our capacity to get into things like really deep dream work and stuff that just requires time and energy. I don't even have kids, and my capacity for really going deep with my dreams still always feels very limited. It's like hard to make time to actually spend the amount of time that generates, optimal insight.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of people contacting you about your product and giving like these powerful testimonies? And
at this point, we've had a nice number of reviews and an amount of feedback. Like people that just kind of go to
you have a little smile on your face as you're saying it. So this is good news.
Yeah, no, it's very rewarding because I know there are a lot of people out there that are, curious to kind of expand their consciousness, experience different states of consciousness, and, maybe haven't really leveraged the dream state to the extent that they can. And I know too, the effect of cannabis that I talked about, which is a large portion of, the people that kind of give us these testimonials, they tend to be people that are interested in experiencing different states of consciousness, right? Like they're doing that with cannabis. And there's a lot of overlap between people that use cannabis and who desire to, experience more of the dream state. And to get the feedback that these people that have been blocked from this for a while, are now having this world open up to them is like the most rewarding aspect of Dream Herbally, I would say, of starting this project. So we've had like my impression, of course, there are probably some people out there that, didn't get the same level of effects that I just never heard from. But my impression from the amount of feedback that we get is that, for most people, it seems to give a boost and that happens to differing degrees. Some people don't get lucid from it, but just kind of have their awareness back, where other people are like, oh, this is great for lucid dreaming and inducing lucidity. So we've had a lot of positive feedback, and it kind of, there's a lot of individual variation in exactly what type of effects it has. But, we at this point feel like, confident in these plants and their ability to do this. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's likely that the people who say that it doesn't work, A, didn't try it long enough, or, B, have other stuff going on. Because for everyone in my immediate circle that has tried it, there's been, I'd say, it's typically like within a week that you kind of at least just start having like, dude, I had a crazy dream last night. Oh, it's because of the tea. They're like, oh yeah, totally. Like for my wife, she doesn't really remember her dreams. And she just wanted to try the tea because we drink tea every night. And she's like, yeah, I'll try some of that. And she had it like, I think 3 times in a week. And then she's like, dude, last night I had this craziest dream. You're not going to believe this. And she's talking to me. And I was like, that's because of the tea. And she's like, oh yeah, that's totally what it is. I said that, I mentioned this at the beginning. My wife had a really interesting dream. Mm-hmm. This is a cool story. She might not want me to share it, but she's my wife, so I'm going to share it anyways. Yeah, no, she's probably fine with it. So she said she had an employee come to her in her dream, and my wife manages employees, and so one of her employees came to her in her dream and said that she was ranting and raving about how frustrated she was that she had this love that she lost, and how she needs to get over it, and she knows it, and she needs to let it go, and all this kind of stuff specifically related to her trauma of a relationship that ended. And then she also told her in the dream that she thinks that the microdosing of psilocybin is not working for her. And so my wife woke up and she texted her employee and told her this, and it was both of the things were true. My wife had like a psychic dream.
Wow.
A visitation from someone else's higher self, which is absolutely fascinating. My wife's an interesting person in that you wouldn't take her to be super spiritual. She's a Capricorn. She's super grounded, super practical, hard worker. But my wife has like metaphysical ability. Like she always knows when something is off, like to a T. And then she has stuff like this. She's always had weird dream stuff. But I think the tea was a catalyst for that dream. And for whatever reason, I think my wife has this kind of medium ability. Fascinating.
Yeah, that is very fascinating. I've heard a handful of stories about, stuff like that. I would not say I've experienced anything that felt like kind of exactly what you described myself.
Yeah, I think some people can do it and some people can't. I think some people have like, the word's escaping me, dreams that kind of tell the future.
Precognitive dreams.
Yeah. So like you have a dream, it's like about something happening the next day and then it happens. Like some people have that stuff all the time. I've never had that.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard even of, missing people being found through the dream state. Crazy. And things like that. Wow. It's mind blowing. It's, beyond where I have been able to go with dreaming. Yeah. Like I do have the sense too that some people may be more naturally inclined to these types of metaphysical or psychic abilities. Like even if they're not kind of, working at honing that or anything, like, maybe the tea, because I think the tea opens us up to be able to reach more frequencies more easily is kind of a way that I conceptualize it. Yeah. And if somebody's like more on the verge of that anyway, it could be enough to just kind of push them over the edge to be getting those kind of messages. For
sure. Have you had people give you feedback that they have scary dreams or nightmares associated with drinking the tea?
No, to be honest, I haven't. I have had people basically say that, they're afraid to try it because they tend to have nightmares.
Yeah.
But never, as a result of the tea, I've never gotten that feedback. I don't think that.
So me and my wife both kind of had that. I wouldn't say nightmares. I would say that my dreams became so intense. Like this is like just the first week I was drinking it, and then it went away. And then the same thing happened to my wife. And my dreams were so intense. I'd have like several dreams so intense that I'd wake up from. Some of them spooky and scary and weird. But that didn't deter me. I found it fascinating enough to continue because I was very, very interested to see where it would go. But and it's gone.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
That is interesting. I've always had the sense that the tea is kind of enhancing our awareness of what we might be dreaming anyway.
Yeah.
Like again, like everyone dreams, like even those of us that are, using cannabis in this way that's blocking our dreams, like we're still dreaming. It's, if in sleep studies, for example, like that's shown that we're still kind of going through all the same signals and everything that, we're dreaming. And it's, to me, just like the level of awareness that we have that, we're able to kind of improve. And now I don't know exactly that that's true. Like I can't say that, this wouldn't shift the content, as well. But that's been the way I've experienced it.
Yeah.
And I also have the perspective, I guess, that all dreams, to quote Jeremy Taylor again, because I like the way he frames this, like all dreams come in the service of health and wholeness. So even dreams that are uncomfortable or bad, right, like a bad dream in quotes, that if you were to go through the same techniques and break down that content, there can be a ton of value that could come from that.
Yeah.
And it's just maybe the experience itself is uncomfortable.
Which is also like a synonym for a mushroom trip, right?
Exactly.
Because if you're having a bad trip, it's because there's things coming. There's, the plant is a teacher and it's bringing things into your awareness that you're resisting. And that's typically what a bad trip is. And like you said, acceptance. And once you get to a point where you're like just going to accept it and allow it to flow, it turns from being this tumultuous, scary thing to being this more kind of mystical, comforting thing. Yeah,
exactly. And I think too that like, sometimes dreams can be more dramatic to get our attention more. Like if something has say been showing up in more subtle ways, and maybe we haven't necessarily registered it or reacted to it, it's possible that if you're kind of putting out there this intention to work with your dreams, that it could start increasing in intensity to get your attention and be like, hey, focus on this aspect. This is where the insight lies.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of a phenomenon that has been pretty consistently reported too.
That's very interesting, man. I'm gonna walk away from this conversation with a different perspective and respect for my dreams. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much there that I feel like you kind of have to dig for. But like when you dig for it, it's there. And so, those that want to really go deep into extracting value from the dreams, like, I will say when I first like started this whole dream Herbally thing, like it was more, it was more about wanting to kind of have these experiences. It was more open-ended, and I have been just, completely blown away by the amount of richness and insight that can come from the dream state. So I get that reaction, like there's a lot there under the surface.
Yeah. I've always been fascinated by dreams. The feelings, the otherworldly magical feelings you can get from them. Sometimes my dreams are so bizarre, there's literally no way to describe it. It's like what life is like from a cellular organism from another dimension, like that, completely different. But it's the feeling that you get. You wake up with that feeling, you're like, whoa. And feelings are these unique codes, that give us so much. I feel like they hold this so much magic and power. And what I've noticed, are you familiar with Bashar?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't listened to too much of the content, but I understand it's like a channeled message.
Yeah, so he's really into dreams and dreaming and lucid dreaming. He talks about specifically about something called the template level reality, which is something that you can access in your dreams and where you can change circumstances in your life through your dream space. And which is very interesting. I don't have really specifics on it enough to know how or what, what exactly it is. But what I've noticed is through my spiritual journey is that as I've become more intentional and mindful, and my vibration has it varies, but it's always on an upward progression. If you're a spiritual person, you're on the path, your vibration's going up like a graph chart or whatever. And I've noticed that my dreams have become more lifelike and my life has become more dreamlike. And I think that it's a beautiful realization to know that our life is much more like a dream than it seems.
Yes.
And, it takes off so much of the seriousness of what's going on,
Yes.
It's not serious. This is a playground for us. It's very easy for us to get wrapped up in the collective vibration that we are these bags of meat that need to pay taxes and earn money and then, eat food and then, do all these specific things. And that it's easy to get bogged down in that intellectual space. But to bring it back home and go, hey, life is literally a mystery. No one really truly knows what's going on. And it's all a dream, man. So let's dream something tasty, something fun, and not take it too seriously in the process.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, your last brief episode of the podcast about things not being too serious resonated strongly with me. I feel like it's very easy to get kind of sucked into the day to day, and like these states do have a way of kind of showing us those kinds of things. Like I would say, psychedelic states as well. Like my wife was coming back from a trip one time, and just kind of excitedly sharing like her download, like this is the trip, like this life here is the trip. Like we tend to think that we're going off into these altered states or whatever, and like going on a journey. It's like here we're here on this planet, kind of experiencing a trip, a dream. And a lot of the ways that we can navigate this space work more similarly to the dream state than I think we realize, and that's where lucid dreaming can come in. And I love your perspective on that, on how it can really strip away the perception of seriousness around it all.
It's just such a helpful reminder, dude. I mean, and like that episode that I made that you said that resonated, the reason I made it is it's just a personal reminder. Because I know that. I said it a million times. I had, I've talked about that conversation with dozens and dozens of people, but I forget it. I get sucked in to the story that we're sold. And the funny thing about dreams, so when you're dreaming and you become aware that you're dreaming, it's called lucid dreaming. And then you can effectively control the dream, right? So when you're awake in the living world and you wake up and realize you're dreaming, it's lucid living.
Yep.
And then you can control your life because you realize that there's nothing to matter. Matter don't matter. It's all here. That's the magic, man.
For sure. It's empowering. And I feel like it's one of those things I'm always kind of trying to get better at, sort of like controlling this dream, this life, manifestation and all that. It's tricky. So I never want to sound like I kind of, everything you said like makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I struggle, I think, with the implementation of that lucid living sometimes.
Dude, and I don't want to come off like I'm the master either, because I'm definitely not. We're all students here. If we weren't students, we wouldn't be here.
Right. Good way to put it.
I'm in the same boat, bro.
Learning. Yeah.
And anyone who comes off like they are the master and they got it, not the ones to follow.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely one of those things that just, I don't know. I don't know. Over time, it's like I can look back and see ways that I've manifested outcomes in my life, and look back in retrospect and say like, well, I had this degree of intention and enthusiasm and energy or effort or whatever. Like, I'll look at all these factors in retrospect.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it's the looking forward, trying to apply that same stuff. It can be easy to feel blocked. And this is the kind of stuff that dreaming in general, not just lucid dreaming in general, has really guided me towards, like, given me sometimes very specific guidance on, how to navigate, wanting to manifest outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like we're drawn together for a reason, bro. Our music is kind of our vibrational calling card to the universe, and it brings in a lot of people into the swirl. And you heard the call.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I mean, when I think it might have been one of the episodes talking to Skip about Iboga, where you guys kind of described the music of Indubious as a spirit, like it kind of has its own spirit. I don't want to put exact words in your mouth, but I
don't disagree with that. I don't necessarily remember saying it, but I don't disagree with it. So
yeah, like that I think it was one of your earliest episodes, that I've gone back and listened to because I really enjoyed it. And I think there's something there where that spirit, that vibratory level was just kind of in alignment with me and where I was from like the first time I heard it. And it's the type of thing that now, like when I listen to your music, it's just almost like automatically uplifting, even after all the listening I've done over time. And, I felt kind of from early on when I discovered you guys, which was, surprisingly not that long ago, within the last couple of years, just kind of this draw to, I don't know, there's something there for me, not much more defined than that at first.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's absolutely been a blessing. I really greatly appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation, have a chat, and get into some of this stuff. And I love the work that you're doing with this podcast as well. It's been great.
Well, it goes both ways, man. I'm very stoked that you felt aligned with us enough to reach out and, offer this collaboration that we're doing. And I'm actually, I'm honored to be involved with the product, man. The product it's amazing. It's amazing. So, people can go, buy the tea and check out your, your dream interpretation services and all that at dreamherbally.com. And, it feels like this feels, complete, man.
It does.
Yeah.
Much appreciated for all this. I appreciated all your sharing around your own experiences, with our product over the last several episodes. It's been nice to follow along with your journey. And again, thank you for the opportunity here.
Yeah, we'll see what the future holds, man. Maybe we'll have the Indubious Dream Herbally World Tour 2023.
Sounds excellent. Love it.
Yeah, totally. Well, thanks a lot for coming, bro. Steven, much love. This is the Living Indubiously podcast.
Have an optimal theory
Bless
for
you
playing
all.
the game.
Whatever you focus upon becomes your truth.